Yeah, hi everybody. This is the IOTA community Discord. This is our weekly governance meeting on Thursday, the 13th. Nice to have you all here. And we think it would be useful to go through some feedback that we have now received on our Shimmer Community Grant Committee proposal. And also for everybody here in the audience, if you want to know something specific or you don't understand anything, um, that's really the best time. We are here to explain everything and give reasons and also receive some feedback here. So it would be great if you have any questions and suggestions. Just ask, yeah. And I'm always talking too much, so just start interrupting me if you want to know something. That's usually the best way. Um, okay, maybe. You see my screen. So yesterday, like I said, we've been discussing this proposal now for such a long time, and with so much, I don't know. I'm sure we got 20 meetings about the Grand Committee proposal, and now we decided to put it up into the forum to get more feedback from the community. And so basically, I posted this whole thing yesterday here. The same as we had the draft in the Google document with the simple summary explaining everything. We got the abstract, we got the motivation behind everything, that we want to be competitive in the space, um, in line with some of the most successful grant programs out there from, let's say, an operational efficiency standpoint. We will not be in line with their treasury value, but I think it's important that we design a very effective process. Um, Everything this is maybe for those that of you that haven't seen it, I just post the link. Um, I can just post the link here up in the chat to the forum, and so everything fine so far. The good thing is we got a lot of feedback. I think we got like 20 or 30 replies. Also, we got some feedback in the Google Docs, which is also very helpful. And so I just thought it would be cool to see what people thought about the proposal and if there is things we can improve, if there is something that we might need to change or whatever we think about these feedbacks. Also, the good thing is we got quite some votes here already. So got 127 and a nice two-third majority says, okay, they support the idea, which is a really nice sign of, seems to be that we have hit a nerve in the community, even if it's just now only one day and it's maybe not really submerged in all corners of the community. But that's already a pretty good feedback for the start, I would say, yeah. Um, we got some first feedback around the Swiss entity. So ZMB got something there, um, which is it's specifically about the GmbH that we might set up, and then basically who would be the managing director of this whole thing, which I think is best suited for the program lead. Um, but to give more details on this, I'm waiting also for Anya to come back from Berlin because she can clarify this a little bit more. But I did reply here and I did put some things here also around the costs and the stuff. So this might be also helpful for everyone. This is what I know already from Anya. So the setup cost for this Swiss GmbH, it needs a minimum share capital of 20,000 Swiss francs. This is something like I don't know, $22,000 or something like this. And this needs to be fully paid at the time of the registration. Then you have some notary and commercial registry costs around 2,000 Swiss francs. And then you need an attorney to draft two very important documents, would be the Gesellschaftsvertrag and the Geschäftsführeranstellungsvertrag. But there are kind of example uh, bills for this available, so it shouldn't also be a very difficult task. Yeah, and there need to be the company needs to be actually set up in Switzerland, and one person is enough to register the entity. And the good thing is this doesn't need to be a human. So this person can also be another legal entity like the Swiss Tangle Ecosystem Association. And yeah, and this is basically what we thought would be very useful, so that the GmbH would be a subsidiary of the Swiss Tangle Ecosystem Association. I think I made another post where I explained it a little bit more, but I wait for this until I got some more info from legal to explain it a little bit better. I also shared again here in the thread the recording of the legal session that we had with Bian, the lawyer, because I think he gave a quite good explanation why this is a preferable setup and why it is quite often used in DAO and crypto projects setting up in Switzerland. What else? Then there was, of course, the. I was very clear that this question will come if the treasury or if the committee could, the funds could be used to get more exchanges on board, like of course Binance, Coinbase, and everything, would be extremely nice. I just can say it definitely will be possible. So if somebody puts up a proposal to pay for a listing fee on an exchange, this could be a normal, acceptable proposal for the committee. Then the thing is just needs to be figured out. Basically, does it really make sense? Because there are a lot of, let's say, tier two and tier three exchanges around um, that would likely list Shimmer. But sometimes you really have to think about if it really makes sense. I mean, now, yes, but maybe when we are already on 4 or 5 exchanges, does it really make sense to put exchange number 6, which is a random exchange somewhere, and pay something like 70,000 or 100K for such a listing? I would then really try if we would be able to get onto a really big exchange like Binance, um, but they will of course also call for other numbers in the price. So we'll see, but it's definitely possible, in my opinion, to do such exchange listings paid by the community treasury. Okay, what else did we get? Yeah, then we got another feedback from ZMB also about the GmbH. Um, I answered a little bit here. Okay. Um, This is something I didn't really understand, but later he clarified it, that he would like to have um, like a in-person meeting of the committee members, or basically somebody evaluating the committee members in an interview. Um, but I don't know basically who should be the interviewer. This would be my question here. Um, Then JD did some great addition here. This was an interesting comment, I think. This is also something what we have been always talking about, that the committee should also have the task to attract additional influx of capital to the treasury. So basically, look out for profit creation, or for repelling the treasury. Um, and yeah, so this is something we have already in mind, I think. But I didn't put it yet into the proposal because this might be something for later on the way. And also for this, would need it would need a separate proposal, I would say, yeah, from the committee, very likely. So if the committee would say, okay, we want to put, we see, okay, we have a large amount of tokens still unused, and maybe we want to put it for 6 months into a portfolio of yield generating kind of safe things that gives like 10% or 12% API. I think then the committee would need to put up a proposal to the community that they're allowed to do something like this. I think we also talked about that already quite a lot. But what I figured out is that I definitely will do like a second version of this proposal and add all these suggestions because there have been some quite good things coming up here. And then we'll make like a second version and do like a second draft and update some things that make sense, I would say. Same like this, yeah. So the payment procedure for the committee members should be clear from the start. This is also something that is not yet really clearly defined in the current draft, but I added it already to the document, to the Google Sheet, so that we have like a clear thing that I mean, we've been talking about this, that we said for the lead, we would start with having 6 months of salary available in stable coins already. And stuff like this we have to add also to the document so that it's clear for everybody how this will work. And another good thing was here his suggestion to also recommend KIC already for tier 1 proposals. And this goes also in the same saying like the stuff that Andy brought up in the last meeting, where it seems that anyway, if we would fund any project that is based in the United States or any person receiving funds in the United States, all of them would definitely need to be KIC'd. And so I think might very likely make sense then just to say, okay, we KIC everyone to be on the safe side, even if it might take a little bit longer and it might a little bit cost factor or a little bit hassle, but yeah, maybe better safe than sorry. Yeah, here. And if we have to do it for US citizens anyway, even if they only get 50 bucks or something, I think then we can anyway just make it a requirement for everyone that receives funding out of this committee thing.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to,
Yeah.
Philo, I just wanted to make a quick comment on that.
Yeah.
And the more we talk about this and the more that it comes up, I kind of agree with this with what Andy said and what this poster is posting,
Yeah.
right? That I think all this, the committee and the people who are going to receive grants, that they all should be KYC.
Yeah.
If it's a process that, you know, the Treasury could provide and it's not that difficult to go through.
Yes, it's actually that's the thing. It takes usually to make a KIC like the basic thing. It's the same thing when you're doing an exchange. Yeah, so you basically do this thing with taking a picture with your passport and stuff like this. So it takes you, I don't know, it takes you maybe half an hour, costs 150 bucks. But it's then, yeah, we are definitely then on the safe side from all legal things, and re- legal things will always tighten up, especially in Europe. Also in US they are already. So I also see it in other DAOs. A lot of them do it. Yeah. So like also Polygon, their grant program. Everybody, even if you get a small grant there, everybody has to do KIC. So it's not something really unusual. Yeah. And there are good providers out there, I think, where this is not such a long-lasting process. So it shouldn't be a big issue. Yeah.
It just protects against
I
future
think especially with
regulations too.
our small funds, I was in favor of doing that more or less anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's just good for good
Yeah.
measures
Yeah.
because
Also for
especially
trust
with
and things.
our especially with our rather small treasury, we are more. If we get scammed, if Aave also gets scammed 2K, it's fuck it, honestly.
Yes.
But for us, it would make a difference. So
Yeah.
I would say we should add that for tier 1.
Yeah, and if the regulatory, regulations change, right? And all of a sudden it's a requirement, you don't want to have to try to go back and
Yes.
perhaps have the people that already received something
Mm.
KYC, right? So
Yeah. Maybe what we could do is already we could maybe collect a couple of KIC providers. Don't know if there are some Web3 based like Bright ID and things like this. Maybe we could come up with a list and a little comparison, what they offer, what their costs are, how long it takes, and things like this. Might be a good idea to present this already, or to have this on hand, because the community will anyway ask questions around this thing, and so then they maybe could go into a selection process. Also, might be even something. I don't know if we have already an IOTA based or an IOTA used thing. I don't know how far the Tangle Labs stuff is, but this might be cool if we could even find something that is from our ecosystem.
yeah.
Yeah. Then we had a couple of comments around the salary and let's say the scope of work thing. I mean, we have discussed this a lot, and of course, it was clear that there will be different opinions, um, and yeah, so I think we just have to rewrite some things to make it more clear that there basically will be minimum one, first only one full-time employment, which would be the lead. That would also be like the director of the GmbH, and then all the grant reviewers would basically be kind of service contractors and work on a on-demand base and invoice. Yeah, so of course, if we don't have if we only have 3 proposals coming in per month, then there won't be there won't be much work for the other grant reviewers, even for the lead then. But I don't think that's going to happen. All the grant programs I see, um, they have a shitload of work. I just checked the Polygon one. They had in 3 months they had over 400 proposals for grants to process in their program. So this is, I think, something that we can and should be aware of, that there will be a lot of work, very likely. I mean, we have over 70 projects already in our ecosystem. I can imagine that minimum half of them will submit grant proposals. And then once EVM and everything is there, we will get new people coming in. So there will be a lot of work for the grant reviewers. So I don't think yeah, I don't think they will run out of work very, very quickly. Another point here, this was pretty good, and I think also we haven't really clarified this. So what to do or what can a project do if a grant is rejected? Can they reapply? How would be the process there? I think we talked about this, but I don't know if we came to a final conclusion on it.
Yeah, I recall that
Mm-hmm.
I once suggested that. I mean, there are like 3 different outcomes from a review. First one, yeah, sure, we are going to grant it. The second one, no, this does not fit our standards because, for example, it doesn't really help the Shimmer ecosystem.
Mhm.
Then there's like a third one where you say, this sounds good, but we need more information, or maybe something is missing, which
Or
essentially
maybe,
would put.
yeah, or maybe you could even say, okay, yes, but not with the requested funding. We can only give you half or 60% of what you requested because,
Yeah, for
yeah,
example, or
yeah,
maybe that is not really grantable, but maybe you could do it like that.
Yeah.
Also, so essentially a proposal, a grant that's on hold because it's not over yet. We can say, yeah, we can fund you, but you need to do this and that.
Yeah.
Or also when the KYC is still pending,
Mm-hmm.
because would be that there were delays. And yeah, I would say that in quite a few scenarios you would end up in this kind of state where I say you
There's
need
still
to
some
fix that,
deliverables.
or we
Yeah.
say your milestone plan, this isn't really good, review that.
Yeah. So that's still under
think in this-
discussion. Yeah.
It's still under discussion. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when you apply for a job and the other guy says, hang on, I would like to talk to you once
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. So,
In
but
this case, I think there isn't kind of a problem because it's not decided yet.
yes, then it's only in process mode. Yeah.
Yeah, but once that's actually a reject because we say, no, we are not going to fund your shitty NFT collection,
Mhm.
then it's a no, and then I would say there has to be a mandatory break in between.
Because there
Yeah,
was
I'd say
some there was some
if there's like
there were some comments like, okay, can somebody request to be reviewed by another grant reviewer or stuff like this? But I wouldn't go this way because basically there's like the committee should be a little bit of a black box. You basically shouldn't know who reviewed
Right.
your grant. Yeah, but if it's declined by the committee, then it's declined. I mean, yeah.
But
yeah,
didn't we
I
have
also
we have
think we
a
should.
concern about this being spammed while like
Yes.
constantly bringing up the same one over and over again? How did we
Yes.
handle that? I think we had a strategy. What was it?
I think we had something like 6 months.
Mhm.
Once it's denied for sure, then 6 months until it can be resubmitted. And,
Yeah.
and of course, there would have to be changes made.
Yes.
Because if somebody says pay listing fees for Binance, and we say no, we are not going to do that, and 6 months later the next guy comes pay listing fees for Binance, then of course it's
Or basically the
has already
same
been.
team or the same person brings up the same proposal again.
Yeah, if essentially a carbon copy of
Yeah.
an already denied proposal is brought up again,
Yeah.
then I would say we are going to instantly deny it, and
Mhm.
unless like the reasons have changed or so.
Yeah, or
Also
situations.
talking
have
about
been-
reasons, I think that any review, regardless of the outcome, should have a detailed text about why was it granted or why was it not granted.
Yes. This is
Because this is
planned.
transparent, even if it's a black box to protect the reviewers, to say
Mhm.
you're going to just get a message from the committee and you don't know who exactly wrote it.
Yeah.
But there needs to be
There needs
like
to
a
be an
detailed
explanation.
thing, and if you want to dispute, then maybe you can say, hey, you are wrong with that or so, and maybe another person can have a look at it, but ultimately that's a decision of the
Yeah.
committee. I would expect all outcomes to be public anyway.
Mhm.
So if, for example, the community feels like, hey, this is not right, what was the decision, then there would be a pressure towards the committee.
Yeah, and then they can
Maybe,
go through the
maybe somebody
governance
would have to
forum,
make
yeah.
a statement.
Yeah. Then they
I
can
think
go through the
that-
governance forum and basically put the issue up there or something like this and go into a discussion, and then maybe depending really on the reaction of the community or whatever. Yeah, but it's like in general, I agree. We should definitely say there needs to be a minimum time until this thing can be submitted again. I mean, the other thing could be, let's say it becomes really, really busy, and it's like a small thing around 5K, and it's only looked by one reviewer, and there might be just a mistake. Somebody oversees something, or I mean, might be still that. Yeah, but then still, yeah. Yeah,
I think there should be like
Can
Jerry,
I
don't know.
just make a comment about this?
Mhm.
The process of having one reviewer, even for tier one, there's going to be a lot of things going on reviewing a certain like proposal or project. Like we were talking about this way back in the Speed Bridge Fund, I think, and we were discussing what happens if uh, most of the proposals are, let's say, NFT projects. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and you know you have all all the reviewers are have their own pile of projects that they're reviewing, right? And they divvy it up between themselves, right? And it turns out most of those projects are similar. Let's say, do you know what I mean? They're kind of I feel like having one person doing that it, it, it's kind of like it's going to create like weird biases. And the other thing that it made me think about was we were discussing who who in the committee would be a coder or be able to review code, right? So like if a lot of those tier one projects are code based, and then let's say in the committee you only have like one person or nobody who knows how to recode, right? Then do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
I mean, but for
it's like
for
if most
three
of the tier
yeah, for 3K you don't get much coding. That's that's
what do you get? What do you get usually?
I think, yeah, I mean, everything that requires code, I think, goes somewhere in the 10, 15K. There's stuff starts there. So I think this small tier things are very often likely things like, okay, go to an event or produce a YouTube video or write an explanation article or stuff like this. This I think that's going to be a lot of these small things. Um,
So
yeah.
if the tier two was it the tier two
Mhm.
and that has two reviewers,
Yeah.
then and tier three, so then would all the projects that have code, would one of the reviewers have to be the person, at least one person has to be able to decipher that code?
Kind of. It's like um depends really what we get. I know that there are a lot of grant programs, even if it's code related. Um, a lot of the reviewers don't know coding and are not developers, and then it's mostly kind of decided on. I think there's some gut feeling in some of those decisions. Um, yeah, but I think, of course, if there's an extensive software thing, then you need somebody with definitely skills in reviewing code. So yeah,
Okay, so that brings me to the this last train of thought that I was having, which was, is there going to be any kind of formal arrangement between the committee and IF, like a liaison, to kind of discuss what's going on in the ecosystem as a whole? And what like direction the Treasury is going, what is going on. Do you know what I mean?
uh,
Or is this committee going to kind of be off on their own and
I mean, in my opinion, they should be off on their own. There needs to be some communication definitely happening, which would be made by the lead, because you need to always communicate with the other grant giving entity, like the Swiss fund that is done by Mark, because you always need to figure out if a project applies for a fund, you basically directly need to ask, okay, have they also submitted a grant proposal in the other entity? Which I think this is a bit of a. I'm not really happy with the thing that we have two grant giving entities, because in the end they will always have to ask us if we have already a proposal from this team, because we don't want to fund the same thing from two different entities. Yeah, so there needs to be always some coordination between very likely the program lead and Mark about which teams are or which proposals are align, but in the end, whatever the rest shouldn't be much influence from the foundation. I mean, it's naturally will kind of happen. We all know what is where the ecosystem is heading and what is good, and there's going to be communication happening, but not like on a lead or directional basis that the IOTA Foundation makes any suggestions or gives directions what should be funded or not.
You know, that brings up another interesting point that you just brought up about, you know, a project going to mark the Swiss fund or the Treasury. What happens if, like, let's say one team or one person is applying for like many grants on different projects and stuff? Is there a limit to that, or it's okay?
I would say if it always every proposal is looked over as a single proposal. If you are a huge project and you apply for 20 different things, I mean it will create a lot of work. But if all these proposals make sense, why not? In the end, I would basically rather say that you should not. Let's say you have a project and you split it up, you split all the work up instead of submitting one big grant proposal for the whole thing. You split it up in 5 small ones to, I don't know, to get to try to get like an easier review or an easier thing. That shouldn't happen. I mean, if there's one project from one team, this should be one proposal, and they shouldn't split up things into a lot of small mini proposals, which will just create a lot of work and doesn't make sense in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one thing I was going to bring up because it's kind of related to the rejections and reapplications, because a project could just split it up into many different milestones and apply for funding just to push things through as a tier 1 project. But
Yeah.
can they reapply? Even if they've been approved for funding, can they reapply? Not just rejected, but that's another thing to consider.
So you mean they just basically they put up a small proposal for one milestone, this gets funded, and once they've delivered this, they put up the next proposal for a direct follow-up milestone of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is of course not. This would of course not be really nice, and yeah, I mean, I think this is something also maybe this is a job a bit of the grant reviewers, because they're if there's such a proposal is coming on and it says basically, okay, we need a bit of funding to develop our next stage of the product, but the product is not going to be finished with this next stage, then basically I would not agree on this grant, because in the end you don't have a finished product. What do you have then? You just funded a small development step, and then if they don't, you know already, if they don't get more funding, they will not continue the work. You will never have a finished product delivered to the community. So you can't fund something like this. You then really need to say, okay, either you apply and tell us what will be the end product and what are the steps and the milestones for you to reach this end goal, and then you have to apply also for funding basically that covers everything, or you say, okay, you just need a small amount to fund this, and the rest you're going to fund from other things, maybe from a VC or something. So then basically, if you cannot apply for covering the rest of these milestones, if you just in the beginning used only a small grant, yeah, and then later you come up and say, we didn't get funding from the VC or something. We need now to finish everything. We need more funding from the community. I mean, there might be edge cases, but I wouldn't like to have stuff like this happen. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know it sounds appealing, especially also with the score rating that we have. So instead of asking for a 100K grant, which will have much higher and more difficult requirements, you just say, oh, okay, let's start with just 10K, and then if we got this, we come back and say, oh, sorry, we're not finished yet. We need another 25K, and this needs to be declined then, basically. Yeah, if it's yeah, if a project applies for something, it should always uh, have a full plan for the finalized product that will be the outcome of this thing. And you can't just fund an intermediate step, because you will not have, very likely you will have no deliverables in the end. Yeah. But I think this is something then really the grant reviewers need to be a little bit clever and see through and look through those things and potentially also identify such tactics and hold the projects accountable for things like this, so that stuff like that is kind of not acceptable, in my opinion.
Well, maybe we should actually put that as part of a questionnaire in the, well, not the application process, right? Like make them answer. Is this,
Yeah.
are you receiving funding elsewhere? Are you, or,
This, of
you know,
course,
or
yeah.
are all these phases, are all in phases included in your proposal?
Mhm.
You know,
Do
maybe
we
that would help.
have? Yeah, currently we have so we have about the project, idea, use case, processes, project goals. So you have to describe basically your whole project, yeah? So you have to write about your team's plan. What do you want to achieve with this project? What are the milestones and the expected milestone rewards? How do you want to
On what are the milestones? Maybe we should say, it maybe maybe we should add verbiage that says something like, are all the milestones bring the project to completion or something like that?
Yeah.
Because right now, if you just say, you
Yeah.
only applied for, you said there's 3 milestones, but is that a done deal?
Yes. That's basically a great thing. So I will I make a note here to that this is something
Just complete the
describe
project.
if
Something like that.
these.
Also, now I remember what we addressed in the
Yeah,
Speed
that was
Bridge
such a
Fund.
long time ago. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. We also had a question that asked the person who was putting in the proposal, the submitter, where else have you gotten grants or funding in the ecosystem?
Yeah.
Or do you know what I mean? So
Yes,
they
yes.
would have to state it if they were getting it from the Swiss fund or if they were applying for other projects within the Treasury
Maybe,
itself.
so maybe we should make
if
that a
M or the
question. Are
team.
you also applying in the for the Swiss fund, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that question, right, Greg?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I put it directly here in the other information. Is applied for other grant programs, especially Swiss, especially TEA or EDF. I mean, if they get a lot of projects get grants also from other ecosystems, yeah, like we have this, like we talked
Right.
to DeFi. I mean, this is of course, if they got a grant from Polygon to build something on Polygon, that's not an issue. Yeah.
Right. So we were saying that it's not an issue, but just for transparency's sake.
Yes. Yeah.
In case there's an issue, but it
Yes.
wouldn't be something that would be against them for the
Yeah.
grant itself, but it would just be to check, double check the project itself and what was going on with
Yes,
it.
and I think just to add to this same area, Philo, is we should ask them what name was used in the other application for, and if it happens to be an IOTA or an IOTA based
I mean, they could
grant
just
program.
they could just lie there, yeah. So if they don't want to have this, but if it's like I said, if it's something that is in our ecosystem, so basically
Yes.
they have applied under a different name in the Tangle Ecosystem Association. I think this is something we will always figure out because there will be
Okay.
quite a close communication between Mark or whoever is in the Tangle ecosystem responsible for the funds and this program. It needs to happen because he will also, of course, he will come always says, okay, I got this project here. They want to build yield aggregator, and they are coming from here, and the team is like this. And then
Well,
automatically,
maybe we should make it. Maybe we should make that a requirement, like before the award is given. I mean, as part of the checklist before
Yeah,
an award is given, that we have to check with each other.
yeah.
right. So some of this stuff isn't about making sure that somebody doesn't scam the treasury. Some of this stuff, some of the reasoning behind this was that, let's say somebody was using different names or different projects and putting in multiple proposals for the treasury and for the EDF and stuff like that, just trying to get money for trying to get different things going, right? Then the reason why the question, had specific clauses to it was not to stop them, but in case it got revealed later, right, that the
Yeah, they have a
community wouldn't
proof.
say that the
Yeah.
committee fucked up. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It wasn't it's not on the committee. It
Yeah.
was on that person. They were being dishonest, you know?
Yeah. No,
Right.
let's add that. Which name was used for these applications? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, this is like I said, we have some good feedback here in the forum also, and so we will add all this stuff, or I'll add this over the weekend very likely, and then publish an updated version of this whole thing, where we already add some additions and make things clearer and easier. Let's see. So we got some answers from DeepSea here. Then me. Yeah, then these also were some really good additions here. Somebody that basically was not so happy with the open source thing. But I think this was a bit of a misunderstanding because he basically said that if we not allow closed source things, we would automatically only allow non-profit things. But I mean, this is not the case. Most of the software out there in the crypto world is open source, and they're all for profit. Yeah. So look at Uniswap and all the DeFi protocols. They're all completely open source, but still make a lot of profit. So it's maybe a misunderstanding that people always think if it's non open source automatically has to be non-profit, which is nonsense. Yeah. So we want projects to make profit. I mean, they should all get crazy rich with their great idea. That's not an issue. Just I think we all agreed that open source code is just something that needs to, in the end, when everything's finished and the development is through, and so that they get the full funding, they will then need to at a point need to publish it under open source license. But they can still all be definitely for-profit projects. That's absolutely no problem.
There is one thing. I mean, I was trying to find a middle ground, right? And you guys weren't really into that. But I will say this: if you are by not doing like an escrow thing or something, or giving some period of time, you are very possibly making it so VCs can't invest in these guys or won't. Just heads up.
I mean, is this an issue for the Treasury?
I don't know.
Well,
I'm
you
just like
saying
I
the
just
saying the
want to make
project-
people understand that that's a consequence of this, like
Right,
of not
right.
like right. It's a consequence of not giving like a grace period of like 6 months or a year before this stuff is turned over to the community, in fully open source.
Is that something specific with VCs that you've
Well,
encountered?
a lot of VCs have a requirement, right? That like we just don't. If it's open source, we won't do it. They just won't go there. Just that's just a point of information, just.
I mean, but that
So-
actually that's good because basically those projects that want to do open source and going to be declined by VCs, those are the perfect projects for the community treasury, yeah, because
Fair enough.
they basically live on this open source narrative, which is great. And yeah, they can't go to VC, so then they have to come to the treasury if they want to stay open source. That's kind of depend on which devil you want to choose. Yeah, do you want to be kind of community driven and be open source, make profit, or do you want to go to the next hedge fund around the corner and be tied into kind of a contract with them? I mean, they have large funding, of course. That's super attractive for teams. But yeah, I mean, then if they want to stay closed source, yeah, the VC world is open for them.
Yeah. No,
But
yeah.
yeah. But maybe not the community treasury business. Basically, it should. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a software guy. I'm not an open source prayer or whatever. But it just, from my opinion, doesn't feel right to take community funds and then basically
No, yeah, and like I was
have
saying, I
yeah.
was trying the escrow thing would not. It would just be a period of time before
Yeah.
it belongs to the community.
Yeah.
But that's letting the company that
Mhm.
it allows the company that put the blood, sweat, and tears in building the application or whatever they're building, a period of marketing their product before all the competitors can just take their stuff and run with it.
But is this really something? I mean,
I don't know. It could be the difference
I-
between
yeah.
the difference between a successful funded project and not.
But
I don't know. I mean,
they're all I mean, they're all open source. All the successful Web3 protocols and products, everything that's built on Ethereum has always been open source from the beginning. I mean, the whole community codes together these protocols. Yeah, it's not just one team. There has very much community. Everything Uniswap, 1inch, Aave, MakerDAO. Everything has been open source from the start, and they made shit tons of money and been successful. So I know in Solana and things like this, there are some. I mean, most of the Solana wallets are closed source, which is super scary. And they just do this because I don't know. Maybe they're like having a mess in their code or whatever. But having code not available for outside review is also a super security issue. Yeah, I wouldn't put money in a project which code is not open source and where I don't know that the community and the great devs that we have there, they can just look into it and really read through and test stuff out and find the bugs. It's always going to be more secure if it's open source. Yeah, so I don't think that's, especially for community money, it's something we need to go. Yeah. But that's just my opinion. Yeah. Then this thing, he was a bit unhappy with the thing that we said, okay, we don't give out any grants if the market cap is below 50 million. I mean, yeah, it's of course I heard a lot of these opinions also. I mean, especially if it's super low, then we need to pump money into the thing. But like below 50 million, this will drain a lot of funds, and I think the agreement was kind of clear in the group that there should be this low tier thing if we kind of below 100 million and below 50 million, because you have then this operational costs and everything, and so this will drain the treasury really quick. I mean, if we see that after 6 months we are still only cranking around at 20 million, the community will have to think about what they can do and if they should use funds to do something. But yeah, I mean, we came to this conclusion over the last weeks, and we put up this number, so I wouldn't change a lot here. again, the open source thing,
Yeah,
and
I think this is actually the best idea to just say, hey, if we are really in trouble with funding because there's a big bear market, then sorry, but then we can't pay out.
Yeah.
And we might have to cease operations for a year if it would come that far, which I hope is not going to happen.
I mean, the other
Because
thing,
personally, we are already quite in the bear market.
yeah. I mean, the other thing
But
would be let's see. Let's say we go into a bull market and the projects just doesn't pick up. Yeah, market cap stays super low, 25 million. Nobody's interested in Shimmer, and basically the money is being pumped to all the projects around us. I think then we could think about. But let's clear if everything is down and we are in the bear market. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
it's also not like written in stone.
Yes.
I mean, if we feel like this, we would have to do a governance vote and say,
Yeah.
hey, we have an issue with that rule here because Shimmer isn't picking up really. We need to maybe this year do an exception and say, hey, we're still going
Yeah.
to deal it with as if the treasury was high
Yeah.
tier.
Do some targeted, really effective things to push market cap a bit, and then have some fun. And yeah, so get out of this pit hole. But let's see. I mean, in the moment,
Yeah,
everything
I
looks
mean, there
fine.
could also be like maybe say we are going to go 200k extra,
Mhm.
increase the single time budget increase, and say, hey, we're going to give more money for now. They reserve 200k for some projects. Maybe even already decide that we want to look into that.
Yeah.
Say a Binance listing for 50k or so. Yeah, I know. Bad amount. Yeah, maybe.
Put another zero on it.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. One thing I wanted to target here, because it came up here and also in another comment, is there seems still to be some confusion about the holding of funds in the Swiss entity and the GmbH and the thing, because he seems to understand that the Tangle Ecosystem Association controls the whole 20%, which is currently yes, because maybe you all know we don't have smart contracts, and there are these two addresses that both hold now 10% of the tokens. And the seats are in the hand of the Tangle Ecosystem Association, so the Swiss Verein, as long as there is no smart contract available that would allow the community to control the seat of this address. Yeah. But the committee itself, so the GmbH and let's say the 5 members, they have no control over this full community treasury. Yeah, they get this 15% of the 10%. So this is the budget that we propose for the committee for 1 year, and the rest of these 85% of the community tokens basically will first of all stay with the Swiss entity until we have these governance contracts running on the EVM, because then the Swiss entity will transfer this whole amount of tokens into the hand of the community, and then basically those tokens are held in a smart contract, and they can only be spent by a governance vote from all Shimmer token holders, but they will be out of the control of the Swiss entity, of the Swiss Tangle Ecosystem Association, IF entity, and the GmbH, the committee, will anyway only hold a small fraction of these, the 15%, and I think also not in the beginning, not directly, because it doesn't make sense potentially. Let's say you have Gnosis going live, and the next day we transfer the whole 27 million Shimmer tokens into the Gnosis wallet. You can basically say, okay, in the beginning, maybe a budget for 2 months. see that everything runs fine, that there are no bugs in the Gnosis implementation or something, and then the rest goes over into the committee, yeah, or on demand.
And even there, you might consider saying,
Yeah.
how dumb is it to keep the money in two different places and split it
Yeah.
up just from a safety security standpoint,
That's
right?
the thing, yeah. So, and also, I mean, there is also some people say, okay, there's maybe a trust issue with the committee members. Yeah, I mean, do they need the whole 27 million Shimmer tokens on day one in their control, or
No.
does it make sense to give them only 1 million and then another 2 million a month later? And so basically, because as long as it stays in the Swiss entity, in the IF control, it's saved and it's in custody with the Swiss custodial.
Yeah. Yes, it's a lot safer that way.
Yeah.
And frankly, it would protect against a smart contract event.
Yes.
It should, right? It could only access, well, depending on how we do it, right? If we left the request to the Swiss entity custodial arrangement to be voice,
Yeah.
not programmatic, I should say, then
Yes.
that would be another
Yeah.
way to make sure that get cleaned out.
Okay, I think these are things, like I said, we can use the chat and the channel to refine this, also the Google Doc. I'll try to put the most of these additions together. Then maybe we can talk next Tuesday through the next version and release it, let's say, on Wednesday. In the governance forum with all the additions that have been, or the suggestions that have been coming up from the comments in the forum, and then basically have a version 2 of the committee proposal, which hopefully will then be much clearer and easier to understand, and has added some of the additions from the community feedback that we receive now. I want to close this governance session now because we are going into our DeFi education, which will also talk about governance. So I'll say, first of all, I stop the recording now.